she's probably just sleeping, but please, go on in. Aslan furrowed his brow, looking down as he replied, yes, and then he stepped inside. Seeing Gray sitting by the bed, the director walked closer to make the introduction. Gray, your son is here. However, she didn't react at all and just kept fidgeting. The director saw this and explained sadly, after her condition became more serious, she sometimes doesn't respond to external stimuli like this. Tomorrow, if Lady Gray's condition improves, I will call you both here again. Just then, Lila turned and gently called out to Aslan, please, step closer to Lady Gray. Finally, Aslan gathered his resolve and called out one word, mother. Gray reacted slightly upon hearing him, turning to look in his direction and crying out, ah! Gray clutched her head in pain and screamed, sweat pouring down her forehead, like a river, as her mouth let out a series of broken sounds. Finally, Gray screamed out a curse. Monster. Faced with this strong reaction from Gray, Aslan was too heartbroken to speak. She gasped continuously, clutching her chest and crying out each word, this monster. Seeing that the situation was dire, the director quickly turned to leave, shouting, I'll go get the doctor. His footsteps sounded incredibly rushed. Lila started to panic at this point. What do I do? Suddenly she turned and froze, having spotted something. Lila rushed over to it, pushing open a door with a loud creak. Then Lila went to Lady Gray's side, calling softly, Lady Gray. She held out a small bag to her. Lila looked at her with concern and instructed, please breathe slowly. Into this. Immediately, Gray started to breathe steadily, one breath at a time. After a moment, Lila leaned over to ask, are you feeling a little calmer now? Are you all right? Witnessing this, Aslan exclaimed in utter astonishment, Lila, you. A short while later, the doctor arrived, examined her, and reported, she's taken a sedative and will be recovering shortly. The director heard this and let out a sigh of relief. Thankfully, it appears to be only a temporary episode, and her condition hasn't shown any signs of deteriorating. The doctor bowed respectfully and replied, nevertheless, if she continues to show any signs of distress, please call me. In fact, it's thanks to the Duchess's quick emergency response that there's no need to worry for now. Lila was completely taken aback by this and exclaimed, pardon? He bowed his head, as if to confirm it again. Then, the director turned to the couple and said, it's a great relief that we were able to handle it, before the episode could aggravate her condition. Where did you study medicine, Your Grace? She was flustered and stammered, I don't know. The director bowed his head gratefully. In any case, thank you so much. Aslan also looked at Lila with a sorrowful expression. Thank you, my lady. The director gestured and offered, well then, I will give you a brief tour until Lady Gray awakens. She blushed from the compliment and replied, yes. At that moment, Gray was resting on the bed, breathing gently. Standing beside Aslan, she couldn't help but feel a little suspicious. Why did I do that? I have no memory of learning medicine, but my body just moved on its own. A while later, the three of them walked together, touring the abbey grounds, their footsteps clicking rhythmically. The director turned back as they walked and explained, the place you two just saw is our kitchen. Aslan's eyes widened as he let out a small sound of surprise. Oh, so Lila thought, a little bewildered. It's really strange. The more I look around this place, the more my heart feels a warmth, as if I had once lived here so deeply and vividly. A stream of memories flooded into Lila's mind. Back then, she was beside her asking, the weather is lovely today, isn't it, Mrs. Gray? With a mix of nostalgia and joy, she also looked gently at her and replied, it really is beautiful. It feels just like home. These memories I've never experienced keep surfacing continuously. Seeing Lila so somber and silent, Aslan asked with concern, is something the matter, my lady? She shook her head, replying a little flustered, oh, it's nothing. A few days later, Lila knocked on the door, then entered with a stack of books in her arms and a smile. Mrs. Gray, I'm here. She simply sat on the bed and smiled gently in return. For the past few days, I have been coming to see Mrs. Gray instead of Aslan. She arranged the flowers in a vase and said, today I brought some flowers. However, Mrs. Gray just sat silently on the bed, saying nothing, but Lila wasn't disappointed and continued to talk to her. The weather is so lovely, isn't it? That's why these flowers have been coming to see Mrs. Gray instead of Aslan. She arranged the flowers in a vase and said, today I brought... She saw the Bible on the table. Oh, I haven't seen this book in a long time. I'm quite fond of it. Lila quickly seized the opportunity to connect with her, if you don't mind. Would it be all right if I read to you? Only then did Mrs. Gray finally nod in reply, which made Lila overjoyed, smiling. Yes, I'll begin reading now then. At first, I only wanted to bring a little bit of different joy to Mrs. Gray, who was always just looking out the window, or maybe I saw the image of my grandmother from my past life. In Mrs. Gray, a frail grandmother who could only helplessly gaze out the window or watch television, I dearly missed the way she would soothe her own boredom. Lila read the Bible to her continuously, and that man was very happy because he could contribute to Mrs. Gray's recovery, even in this small way. And I was also happy that Mrs. Gray seemed to be enjoying this time. Night began to fall, and the bright moonlight shone in from outside. Finally, Lila closed the Bible. I'm finished reading for today. Now I'll tell you about the first time I met Aslan. It was on a frigid winter day. After I finished reading, I shared a little story about Aslan before borrowing a new book, and Mrs. Gray also. The opportunity to connect with her, if you don't mind. Would it be all right if I read to you? Mrs. Gray would come to understand each other better. I'll see you tomorrow, Mrs. Gray. The door to the Abbey room slowly closed. Mrs. Gray looked outside, her expression somber, her eyes seemed tinged with sadness, then she gazed out the window once more. The next morning, as if she were waiting for something, Lila approached and called out softly, "Mrs. Gray, I heard that today." Seemed to be waiting for the stories about Aslan. There was a handkerchief embroidered with little flowers. I thought that the more effort I put in, Aslan and... Lila followed her gaze and understood. Yes, are you waiting for someone? Mrs. Gray slowly closed her eyes and shook her head. What is this memory, and who is this woman beside me? At that moment, Mrs. Gray was startled. Something had just flashed beside her. It was a glowing watch. Mrs. Gray gently picked it up, the reflective surface of the watch glinting in her eyes. At that moment, Mrs. Gray, her eyes widened in utter shock as the monastery door slowly creaked open. Gray clutched the glowing watch in her hand, feeling a bit suspicious. That dream was definitely something the pocket watch showed me. This watch is no ordinary timepiece. So that dream wasn't meaningless. If that's the case, then this is what I must do while I'm still lucid. It was Gray, moving unsteadily with her hand on the wall for support as she headed toward a room, with a flickering firelight. It turned out Lila was sitting and reading by the light of a lamp. Just then, the door was pulled open with a creak. Lila turned her head to ask, "Who is it?" Gray stepped in unsteadily and announced, "It's me." Completely startled, she turned and called out, "Lady Gray." Immediately after, she sat down and said, "Please spare me a moment. I have something to give you." Lila replied gently, "Of course, my lady. First, let me bring you some tea." "You skipped your meal again, is that right?" She hesitated before asking. "Did you forget? Although we haven't been formally introduced, we've already spent the past few days together. Still, you may already know, but my name is Gray Thodel." Hearing this, Lila was flustered but still introduced herself. "Ah, I'm Lila Thodel." She couldn't help but think to herself, she's always so expressionless. Just then, Gray crossed her arms and remarked, "You married Aslan, and the stories you told were quite interesting." Lila answered hesitantly, "Yes." Gray then bowed her head slightly and continued, "I haven't had a chance to thank you for everything you've done lately. I don't have much time left, so please understand." Hearing this, Lila could only exclaim in distress, "Lady Gray, I'm fine, so please, don't say things like that." Gray simply looked at her in silence, a faint smile on her lips, before reaching into her pocket to take something out. "Instead, I have something for you. This is an heirloom that's been passed down from one generation to the next in our family. Have you ever seen it before?" Lila answered hesitantly. "Ah, no." Immediately after, she wondered to herself, "Have I seen this watch before? Why does it feel so familiar?" At that moment, Gray closed her eyes tightly, smiled, and said, "I intended to pass this down to my own daughter, but I only have Aslan, so perhaps giving it to you is more appropriate." Lila was a bit stunned, bowing her head as she hesitated. "Ah, thank you for entrusting me with such a precious gift." Immediately after, Gray stood up to leave. "Well then," Lila quickly stood up as well. "Are you already leaving?" Gray placed a hand on the door, pulling it open as she said, "From now on." As she slowly opened the door wide, Lila could only watch in silence at her retreating figure. Gray hugged herself sorrowfully as she left. "Please, take good care of Aslan for me." She clenched her fists, watching her leave, and replied, "Yes, Lady Gray." A moment later, Lila glanced down to see the watch Gray had given her emitting a strange light. Lila also felt a sense of hesitation. Is that light coming from the watch? Back in her room, Lila tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. What was that light from before? Lady Gray's words? And this glowing watch? I just don't understand any of it. She had told her, "From now on, please take good care of Aslan." Thinking back on it, Lila couldn't help but worry. What could it all mean? Did Lady Gray see the light from the... Is that the watch? Just then, the watch started glowing again. Is this memory my past? No, this is the past life's Lila. In the past, she was sitting in front of her stepmother, and although she looked very similar, her eyes held a certain sadness. But something was very different. Lila looked around in confusion, wondering where this place was. This must be the world of the original story. The obsession of Countess Lariston, the abuse from Marissa and Glock, all the tragedies happened just the same here. I still hadn't met Aslan. Until I arrived at another hell created by Countess Lariston, the Countess sold me to a dying old man as a second wife. It was a terrible marriage. The space around me was shrouded in a dim, hazy light. The contempt from sons older than myself was even more despairing than my husband treating me like a servant. Back then, the people around her scorned and trampled on her. "You're actually a commoner girl, aren't you? That's why you were sold here, right?" They looked down on me because I was sold by my family. The two of them continuously kicked the past life's Lila. Countess Lariston is such an old fox. To sell such a gloomy woman to our father, even if he is a dying old man, is truly despicable. The two of them went back and forth. That's right, no matter how cheap the price was, selling someone from the commoner class like this is just too much. "Brother, do you know how her family died for being so vicious?" Hearing that, the past life's Lila started sobbing, tears welling up in the corners of her eyes. She quickly shot up and grabbed his leg. What are you saying? My family is dead?" The other guy sneered mockingly. "So, you really didn't know? How stupid. How long has it been since Countess Lariston cleaned everything up?" At this moment, the past life's Lila was bewildered, tears streaming down her face, crying out in sobs, "Ah, no, it can't be. My family and my dreams died because of Countess Lariston. Even though I hated Countess Lariston, I had no way to get revenge, except for one single method. I killed my husband, who was going to die soon from illness anyway, and then I escaped. I ran non-stop, day and night, and finally I arrived at a place completely cut off from the world. Inside the dark, moonlit room, my thoughts began to wander. At first, I thought someone might come to capture me, or that the people in the convent would report me. But there were many others in the convent besides me, who also couldn't explain their own circumstances. Seeing those scenes, I was determined to live a new life in the convent. Lila's heart couldn't help but feel sad. That's why this convent felt so familiar, because this is where I started my new life. As time flew by year after year, I naturally became a member of the convent. Seeing the slightly ajar door surprised her a little. The past life's Lila peeked outside to observe, and asked, "It's so early, who's there?" And that day came, when I met that person as if by destiny. She was a woman who concealed everything except for the name Gray. With the refinement I gained from learning noble etiquette to replace Helena, I recognized her natural elegance. I respected Gray and tried to get closer to her. Gray also opened up to me. The past life's Lila was incredibly happy, smiling to herself. Then she bowed her head, expressing her feelings. "I feel so happy. This recent period has been the time I felt was the happiest, being with Gray. That dream was a rare moment of peace after a long time of suffering. However, that didn't last long. Just like in reality, the Gray in my dream also fell ill with an incurable disease of unknown origin. Standing by the door to Gray's room, she couldn't help but sadly lower her head and call out, 'Lady Gray?' At that moment, she also squeezed the past Lila's hand regretfully. 'If I die too, you'll be all alone again.' She could only reply, 'Don't say that.' Gray lay on her sickbed. Gray smiled weakly. 'I wish I had met you sooner. Then you, me, and that lonely child would have all been better off.' The past Lila's face darkened as she asked, 'Are you talking about that boy?' Gray closed her eyes, sighing with a hint of sadness. 'Yes, that child, my poor son. When I leave this world, who will be by his side?' This made the past Lila a bit agitated. 'Your son is living well in the capital, so why are you still so worried?' At this moment, Lila, watching from afar, also felt confused. 'Wait a minute, that face,' she sobbed in sorrow. 'That's the person who left Gray all alone here, isn't it?' In the dream, I was jealous of Aslan at that time, because back then, Gray was my only family. Even though I received endless love from her, that son never showed his face, so I really hated Aslan. At that moment, she weakly turned, tightly gripping the watch in her hand and instructed, 'Please take this. My grandmother gave it to my mother, and my mother gave it to me. I also wanted to pass it on to my own daughter, but I never had one to do so. That has always made me feel regretful, but now that I can give it to someone worthy, I also feel at peace. It's yours.' The past, Lila, with tears welling in her eyes, called out, 'Lady Gray.' That was the last time I saw Gray. Even though I was still drowning in sorrow, Gray's funeral was meticulously prepared, and just before the funeral began, someone from the outside appeared. On the day of the funeral, the past Lila choked back sobs. 'Gray, you will no longer be in pain there and can rest in peace. From now on, you won't have to endure any more suffering.' Just then, Aslan approached from a distance. He offered her a handkerchief and introduced himself. 'It seems you might need this. I am Aslan Thorn.' The past, Lila turned in surprise and replied, 'So you're Lady Gray's son?' That was how I met Aslan for the first time. Although I disliked Aslan for not being by Gray's side during her final moments, when I thought of Gray's last wish, I couldn't ignore him. She remembered Gray's face as she stated her last wish. 'Yes, that child, my poor son. When I leave this world, who will be by his side?' Because of that, the past Lila spoke to him then. Actually, Lady Gray was very proud of her son. My feelings toward Aslan were so complicated. He hesitantly placed a hand on his chest and replied, 'Thank you.' Joy, jealousy, resentment, and longing, along with curiosity and insecurity. As time went on, I only felt more confused. She closed her eyes to sleep, her head constantly nodding off by Gray's grave. Suddenly, someone approached from behind, draping a coat over the past Lila's shoulders. Aslan spoke softly, 'I'll keep watch, so please get some rest tonight.' That kind and thoughtful concern seemed to be building trust with every action, and she could only look up dazedly in response. Yes, I looked at Aslan, was reminded of Gray, and made a decision I never should have, which was to propose a deal using Aslan Thodal's only weakness. Before doing that, the past Lila also hesitated a lot, pacing back and forth in her room, because even though she knew his weakness, the act of confronting and threatening Aslan was no easy task. The day Aslan was to leave the monastery was drawing near, and just then, a knock from outside caught her attention. Yes, the door slowly creaked open while the past Lila was still. Feeling bewildered, a voice called out, saying he wanted to say goodbye before leaving. She flusteredly and hesitantly replied to Aslan, 'Yes, please have a safe trip.' At that moment, he also sensed something was strange, and Aslan approached the past Lila to check on her. This startled her, and then the past Lila had to speak up. 'Sir, is there something you wanted to say to me in private?' Aslan was confused but still replied, 'Yes.' Right then, she spoke first. 'I have something to say to you as well.' He became even more bewildered. 'What do you mean?' Lila, who was opposite him, shrank back and suggested, 'Let's meet behind the monastery in a little while, okay?' I felt that. The moment Aslan came to me himself was an opportunity, and so, the two of them had a private conversation, and Aslan was extremely astonished by what she said. 'What?' The past, Lila avoided his gaze and replied, 'I won't bother you for long, just marry me for exactly 3 years. After 3 years I will leave on my own.' At this, Aslan, his face darkened as he looked at her. So, before hearing what Aslan was about to say, I proposed the deal by using his weakness as collateral. Aslan silently stared at the past Lila before him, and after a moment, he lowered his head. Agreeing to her terms, I understand. We have to leave soon, so hurry and get ready. Seeing Aslan turn and walk away abruptly, the past Lila couldn't help but feel flustered. Yes, I understand. And so, the carriage began to move. The carriage clattered on continuously, but in contrast, the inside was surprisingly quiet. Aslan sat opposite the past Lila, and suddenly spoke up. It'll take a few days to get there. She just let out a surprised, yes. He seemed a little worried as he advised her. Soon the road will get rougher, so you should get some rest beforehand. His words made Lila feel astonished and stunned. When I left the monastery with Aslan, I realized that Aslan was a warm person, just like Sir Grey. And I also realized that he had gone through lonely and painful times, just like me. Because I was blinded by my own sorrow, I had overlooked Aslan's sorrow. She recalled Aslan's warm expression when he introduced himself. It looks like you'll need this. I am Aslan Todel. Back then, she had slowly reached out to take the handkerchief. But right now, the past Lila reached into her pocket, rummaging for something. There was no turning back now, and they traveled until it was late at night. The past Lila kept threading her needle, embroidering the handkerchief, on which vibrant flowers had been newly added. Aslan called out, a bit surprised, making her pause. What are you doing? The past. Lila flustered, lowered her head and answered, I embroidered it on the handkerchief you had lent me, which made you stare blankly for a long time. After that, I started to believe. The original story had begun. I became Aslan's wife, and he brought ruin to the Lariston Count family, and at that time I thought Aslan was helping me get my revenge, that it was to cover up Grey's story. But after succeeding in my revenge, my life wasn't happy at all. Aslan sighed helplessly, clutching his head. Helena, who was across from him, flinched and cried out, yes! Back then, he had coldly brushed past her, warning, just stop it. Every time you do this, I get sick of it. You know, she was stunned but still reached out for him, calling, even so, please just look at me. If there's something you don't, like, I'll fix it. I can change myself to please you. Aslan turned back to look at her with sad, weary and pitiful eyes. At that moment, the past Lila lowered her head sadly and added, so please, just look at me gently. My meeting with Aslan was wrong from the start, but I always hoped that Aslan would notice me. She clung to his hand, begging repeatedly, Aslan, please. Because after my revenge was done, Aslan was the only thing I had left. The next evening, a carriage was already waiting at the mansion gate. The past Lila stood sadly, looking out the window. She lowered her head, thinking somberly, Aslan is going out again today. The more I begged for his love, the more Aslan pushed me away. She muttered in confusion. It was then that I realized I was suffocating Aslan. A commoner, a fraud, someone like me who had to live her entire life as a copy of Helena, was not someone who could dream of marrying Aslan. Even if I were the real Helena, why did I even dare to long for love? I took advantage of his weakness just to have someone so wonderful and so far out of my league. Her footsteps echoed with a clatter. When she stepped inside, the room was empty, making everything feel so suffocating. I knew that myself from the original story was also wrong, but it was too late for regrets. She closed her eyes as she had this thought. At first, I was jealous of everything she had, the overflowing attention and love from Grey, and on top of that, a powerful man who had defeated the Lariston Count family, Aslan Thodel. Even after getting married, I could never become like her. People constantly pointed fingers and gossiped about her. This is the first time I've ever seen a duchess so clumsy with social etiquette. How could a woman like that possibly capture the heart of Duke Thodel? Could it have been her body? My own immature presence was diminishing the prestige of the Todel ducal family. The past Lila looked like she was about to break down and cry. I've been so selfish all this time. I couldn't make him happy the way Grey had loved. Watching her from the outside, Lila couldn't help but feel heartbroken. I felt so sorry for Aslan in the original story. Wait a minute, so what were Aslan's feelings? Why did he not kill me or hide me away like in the original story, but instead keep me as his wife? That was the moment. The story of Aslan Thodel, not Helena Lariston, began to unfold right before my eyes. A while later, the door slowly opened. Dantan bowed respectfully. You have returned, my lord. He shot Dantan a cold glance and immediately asked, Helena? Where is she? Dantan quickly reported, after you left the mansion, my lady went to bed early. Aslan's eyes seemed to show a flicker of disappointment. Is that so? And what about the illegitimate child of the Count's family? Dantan continued his report. The knights are pursuing him day and night, so we should be able to find his hiding place soon. But I have a question. Aslan paused and glanced back. What is it? Dantan asked hesitantly. I know that. You brought ruin to the Lariston family at my lady's request. I don't know what happened between the two of you, but, he trailed off, then continued, even while you continue to pursue the lover and the illegitimate child of Count Lareston to the very end. Why are you treating my lady so coldly? Is my lady threatening you perhaps? Just then, Aslan cut Dantan off. He asked in confusion. Sir? Aslan didn't hesitate to state, that's not it. So don't worry. I love Helena very much. Aslan's answer couldn't help but leave Dantan bewildered. Huh? Aslan blushed and turned away, explaining, well, I'm not too surprised by your reaction. No, even I can't understand my own heart anymore. Then he turned and walked away. Meanwhile, Lila, who was watching from the side, was also stunned. What? Aslan is in love with Helena? He was in love with Helena, and though he didn't know when that feeling started, It was the biggest reason why Aslan... Is my lady threatening you perhaps? Just then, Aslan cut Danton off. He asked in confusion. Sir? Aslan didn't hesitate to. Whenever his heart was stirred by Helena, Aslan would often go out or bury himself in work. Aslan's hand scratched continuously across the paper. Just then, from outside, came the sweet voice of the past Lila. Didn't get rid of Helena, because it was a feeling that even reason couldn't comprehend. Aslan had tried many times to suppress his feelings. A small stone. She gently brought water into the room for him. Since Danton is still working, the very existence of Helena continuously created ripples in Aslan's heart. Aslan replied coldly, I see. And Aslan bitterly hated the fact that he did. The past Lila approached him again, advising, You must also take care of your health while you work. Sir, the sight of Helena approaching with a smile as bright as an angel's made Aslan feel as if she knew everything in his heart and was deliberately toying with him. The hand Aslan had on the desk tightened slightly. Suddenly, he snapped his head away and barked, That's enough. This made the past Lila cry out in confusion. Sir? He continued to question her coldly. Why? Are you suddenly doing things you've never done before? She tried to explain, flustered. No, it's not. Like that. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. It's just that lately, you don't seem to be sleeping well. At that moment, her hand slipped, and she dropped the glass of water. The glass shattered, causing the past Lila to cry out in fear. She hurriedly bent down to clean it up. I'm sorry. Aslan's eyes darkened. Before her hand could touch the broken shards, he called out, causing her to freeze. Helena. The past Lila looked up in confusion and answered, Yes? Aslan looked down at her coldly from above and asked, Do you want to help? Help me. This only made the past life's Lila even more confused. Yes, his voice had turned somber. If you want to help, then please. Don't bother me anymore, especially with sudden actions like today's that make me feel extremely uncomfortable. She looked up, flustered, and said, However, I've been very worried about Aslan lately, and even if it's a contract, I still feel I need to fulfill my duties, as a bare minimum between a husband and wife. The sight of Helena, shaken by his cold words, stirred something in the deepest part of Aslan's heart. And yet, whenever Aslan wanted to confirm Helena's feelings, he would only say even more scathing. She looked up, flustered, and said, However, I've been very worried about Aslan lately, and even if it's a contract, I still feel I need to fulfill my duties. Words to her. The next day, in the territory of Count Peridot, Aslan arrived at the Count's mansion to pursue Marissa and Glock, who... Aslan sat coldly across from her and demanded, Where are the servants? Rosaline hesitated nervously. Well, actually, because of Marissa, my father incurred a massive debt, so we can no longer afford to hire any servants. Aslan said coldly, I see. Are you certain that Marissa and Glock are the ones who came to the Peridot territory? Rosaline continued to tremble as she spoke. Yes, it was an absolutely terrible time, really. He asked with some curiosity, What happened? So she slowly began her story. At first, I thought they were just guests visiting the estate. However, the woman named Marissa got my father into gambling debt and caused him to pass away. From the shock of it all. As for Glock, Aslan, having run out of patience, cut her off. Enough. That's a difficult story to hear. Rosaline wiped away a tear and said, I'm sorry if I've made you uncomfortable, sir. He got straight to the point. So where are they now? Rosaline's eyes widened as she replied, I don't know their current whereabouts, but I'm certain they haven't gotten very far from here. Aslan suddenly grew pensive. Just then, Rosaline added with a small smile, Glock will definitely come back here. At that, he turned to question her. Why? Are you so certain? Rosaline's face flushed as she explained, This is rather embarrassing, but I was actually romantically involved with Glock, even though it ended a long time ago. But when he learns that another man has come looking for the woman he once loved, Aslan seemed to understand. Are you implying that my visit might provoke Glock? Rosaline quickly confirmed, Yes, exactly. Glock Lariston is an extremely possessive man. Hearing this, Aslan simply bowed his head and smirked. That's an interesting theory. Rosaline quickly added, I'm not lying, sir. Anyone would feel that way seeing someone they once loved with another person. Aslan interrupted her with a soft smile. I wasn't referring to that. If Glock approaches you, notify me at once. I will pay off all your debts. In exchange, come with me to my mansion in the capital. That dangerous man could harm you too. Rosaline cried out in complete shock. Sir, then... He looked her straight in the eye and asked, Does everyone who loves someone feel jealous like Glock, without any exception? Rosaline replied, confused. Yes. A faint blush appeared on Aslan's face. When you see someone you used to love with someone else, does that feeling of possessiveness always surface? After hearing his question, she nodded in affirmation. Yes, it's the same feeling for both women and men. This seemed to satisfy Aslan greatly. Very good, then. The more he wanted to bring Miss Rosaline to the mansion in the capital, Aslan wanted to confirm Helena's love through Rosaline's presence. He hoped Helena would get jealous and beg for his love more, so he brought Rosaline to the villa. It's a pleasure to meet you, my lady. I am Rosaline Peridot. This left the past Lila utterly bewildered. However, Helena couldn't help but think Aslan had found a new woman. She replied flustered, Yes, I am Helena Thodel. She and Aslan were only a married couple by an arranged contract, not by true love. Aslan acted as if he loved Rosaline to provoke Helena. He started going for walks and organizing picnics with only Rosaline, things he had never done with Helena before. When laughter echoed from Aslan's bedroom at night, Helena felt completely abandoned. That night, Rosaline widened her round eyes and said, Well then, if you'll excuse me, I'll be going now. The past Lila could only watch her retreating figure, her hand on her skirt clenching slightly. Regardless of the answer she might receive, Helena wanted to ask Aslan about his true feelings, whether he brought Rosaline into the mansion because he completely wanted her to leave. If that were true, Helena would disappear from Aslan's life immediately, regardless of the agreed-upon term of 3 years. As soon as the door opened, a confused Aslan spoke. "Rosaline, I told you to go back to your room." "The past," Lila spoke, flustered. "I'm sorry, it's not Rosaline, it's me." "Aslan, were you waiting for Rosaline?" Her appearance clearly flustered him. Aslan was also embarrassed as she bowed, saying, "I apologize for coming, uninvited. If it's not too much trouble, may I ask you one thing?" Aslan looked at her, bewildered, and asked back, "What is it?" "The past." Lila's hand tightened on her skirt as she asked, "I'm not sure if I have the right to ask, but why did you bring Rosaline into the mansion?" Aslan slightly averted his gaze and replied, "As I have said many times, Rosaline is a distant relative of mine and is facing hardship, so she is only staying here for a short while." The past. Lila's eyes slowly started to well up. "It's okay, please just be honest with me. I already know you're Rosaline's guardian." This left Aslan completely baffled. "Helena," she proposed in a trembling voice. "I'm sorry, it's truly shameless of me, but could you please tell me the truth? That you don't want to see me anymore and want me to disappear from your life?" Aslan shot to his feet, pulled her into a tight hug, and cried out, "Helena!" Completely bewildered, she asked back, "Aslan?" He then said sadly, "I'm sorry." The past. Lila grew bewildered. Why? Why is this happening? He hesitated before answering. "If I had been honest about my feelings from the very beginning, perhaps you wouldn't have had to be hurt this much." Throughout that night, Aslan and Helena revealed all the feelings they had hidden for so long. Aslan explained with great tension, "Helena, to be honest, even now I still hate you for using my mother to threaten me back." Then, she remained silent after hearing this, not knowing what to say. Aslan tried to relieve his own awkwardness by drinking a lot of water, and then he confessed, "But despite that, I still love you very much." The past. Lila blurted out in confusion, "What? Are you telling the truth?" Aslan confirmed, extremely flustered, "That's right, it's funny, isn't it? I can't even understand myself." And so, both Helena and Aslan had realized it that day, that even though it had started from resentment, their negative feelings for each other had completely melted away like snow. Lila, from her past life, gently reached out to touch Aslan's face, and he just stared in anticipation. She slowly leaned in toward Aslan's face, and that day was their first truly intimate night together. As the hours passed, light from outside slowly began to illuminate the room. Beside the bed where Lila from her past life lay, there was a letter. Her eyes fluttered as she slowly woke up. The moment she saw the letter, Lila from her past life was utterly bewildered. She clearly remembered how Aslan had shyly removed his shirt last night while calling her Helena. Just thinking about it made her blush with embarrassment. Lila from her past life suddenly shot up, but then immediately, she felt a wave of sadness. Lila from her past life's thoughts began to wander. Don't tell me it was all because Aslan. It was drunk? But then the letter caught her eye. Oh, Lila from her past life reached out to pick it up, her eyes widening in surprise. This is... Inside were a few words from Aslan. "I had to leave early on urgent business. If I behaved improperly in any way last night, please accept my apology, my lady." Just then, Helena's face lit up with pure happiness as she began to read Aslan's letter. "If you wouldn't mind, please have dinner with me tomorrow night." For a moment, she allowed herself to dream of a future with Aslan, and Lila from her past life made her way to the dining room. Danton carefully poured her a cup of tea before reporting seriously, "My lady, the master asked me to deliver a message to you." Lila from her past life looked up in confusion. "What did he say?" Danton smiled and placed a hand on his chest, reporting sincerely, "After completing his business, he will be sending Miss Rosalind back to the Peridot County." Lila from her past life looked up, bewildered, and exclaimed, "Oh, so Rosalind will." Understanding her concern, he quickly interjected, "The master instructed me to tell you that he will continue to have the ducal knights protect Rosalind, so you need not worry, my lady. And the master also wished to extend his apologies to you." Lila from her past life asked, completely baffled, "What? Aslan?" Danton explained on his behalf, "It seems his cold behavior in the past, and having Rosalind stay in the mansion, has caused you much sadness and worry, my lady." It felt as if a ray of light had finally pierced the gloom in Lila's past life heart. He blushed and bowed his head, expressing, "I am truly glad that things between you two have been resolved. I thought the master would never marry, but now that he has such a kind lady." This made Lila from her past life feel deeply moved. Aslan truly was an affectionate man. Seeing her on the verge of tears, Danton quickly cried out, "My lady!" "Ah!" Lila from her past life hastily wiped her tears in embarrassment. "Oh, I'm sorry for crying so suddenly." Danton also quickly made his exit. "I'll take my leave now." Then, the dining room door closed hastily behind him. For the first time, Helena felt such an overwhelming emotion fill her heart, not since she lived with her family during childhood. It was a feeling of happiness, the last she would ever feel in her past life, because immediately after, the shadow of misfortune drew near. "Helena," someone approached from behind, calling out, "Hello, Helena, it seems you've forgotten all about your Lariston family, haven't you?" How utterly sad that sounds. Lila from her past life then saw Glock, trembled in fear. "Why are you here?" He walked towards her step by step, warning, "If you don't want to die, don't you dare scream for help. What's with that look? I treated you so well. I even opposed Count Lareston when he forced you to marry. Lila in her past life was bewildered, stammering, "Why are you?" At that moment, Glock continued to question Helena. "Do you want to know how I got here and why? That woman Aslan trusted, she's willing to do everything I ask." Hearing that, she felt terrified. "Did Rosaline bring you here?" Glock tilted, his head smiling mockingly. "Oh, why are you making a face like that? You know it too, Rosaline can't escape from my grasp. We're in the same boat, so you understand, don't you? Both you and Rosaline are so foolish. You all think that just by clinging to the Duke you can gain power? Every time I open my mouth, you all lower your heads and tremble like little animals." Lila in her past life suddenly growled, "Stop it!" That made Glock furious, warning Helena, "Don't you dare order me around. Do you want everyone to know about your origins?" The Duke tried to eliminate the Count's family. "Do you want people to know you're a commoner and have been pretending to be Helena all this time? I wonder if His Grace the Duke knows that truth yet?" Lila in her past life hesitated. "That and is." Helena was forced to submit to Glock's threats. At that moment he smiled defiantly. "I heard you used your body to seduce the Duke, right? But I bet no one thinks you're actually an imposter, Helena." Just as Glock said, in her past life Aslan had opened his heart to Helena too late, which meant Helena still couldn't confess her true circumstances. Glock aggressively suggested, "Helena, leave this mansion at once. If you come with me, I won't tell him a thing," she exclaimed in confusion. "What?" Glock knew Helena's weakness and was exploiting it. Seeing her reaction, Glock was extremely pleased, adding, "It would be better for you to disappear without a trace than to be exposed as a fraud. Make your choice. The honor of the ducal house of Tuttle depends on you, Helena." Night fell, blanketing the mansion. The door slowly opened, and a weary Aslan sighed as he stepped inside. Danton also ran out frantically, shouting, "Master!" He calmly asked, "What is it?" Danton's expression fell as he announced, "The madam has suddenly disappeared." Aslan instantly became irritated. "Helena disappeared? Why didn't you inform me sooner?" Danton reluctantly had to explain, "I'm sorry, I thought the madam would return soon after meeting a childhood friend." "So now?" Aslan asked in confusion. "A childhood friend?" Danton grew increasingly alarmed. "Yes, she didn't seem well at the time, but I never imagined that she still wouldn't have returned." At this, he grew grim and calculating. Then Aslan recalled the time he had turned to question Rosaline. "Are you saying that my coming here might provoke Glock?" She was terrified, as she clenched her hands and replied, "That's right. Glock Claristine is a very possessive man." Now, his voice grew harsh with anger. "I can't just leave Helena alone. Get Rosaline immediately." Danton bowed respectfully and replied, "Yes, I understand." The entire room then fell into silence. Aslan crossed his arms, deeply annoyed, questioning Helena. "Where is she?" Rosaline hesitated before replying, "I don't know." That made him lose all patience as he clenched his fists. Aslan repeated coldly, "Your last chance, Rosaline." She just cowered, saying nothing. Then Aslan asked, "Have you ever been in contact with the Count's illegitimate child?" Hearing that, Rosaline looked down and stammered, "I." Then she suddenly fell to her knees. Rosalind pleaded in anguish, "I have committed a crime worthy of death. I was threatened. He came to the mansion and threatened to reveal my secret to everyone. I was once pregnant with Glock's child. If that news gets out, I'll be." Aslan's eyes grew cold and threatening. "Stop with the pathetic excuses and tell me where Helena is now." Rosalind looked up and explained, "Glock was trying to make me the Duchess to extort money. Glock planned to eliminate the Duchess." And with that, Aslan immediately spurred his horse onward. He frowned in deep worry, thinking to himself, "Helena, please be safe. I just confessed my feelings to you, so why is this happening?" Meanwhile, in the distance, another person was hiding behind a tree, drawing a sharp sword as he waited. Then, the part of the story I never knew unfolded. A bloody scene unfolded. Aslan, searching for Helena alone, was killed by an assassin sent from the paternal branch of the family. In this life, Aslan survived, but in the past life, he died. After that, everything went according to Glock's plan. In the blink of an eye, the ducal house of Tuttle lost both its master and mistress and gradually fell to ruin. Rosalind declared herself Aslan's mistress, and the paternal branch of the Duke's family confirmed this information. Her past self began to explain, "That's right, the illness first appeared in her grandmother's generation and was then passed down to Gray." Light flooded in through the door. Lila lay in bed, murmuring anxiously, "Aslan, no!" Her eyebrows knitted tightly, in discomfort. A moment later, Lila's eyes fluttered open. Her hand tightened as she picked up the pocket watch and examined it. "This showed me my past life." Just then, a voice spoke, leaving her stunned. "Lila, don't be so surprised." Lila looked up, bewildered, and asked, "Are you Helena from the past life?" She replied gently, "Yes, that's right." Lila asked, a little worried, "What happened after Aslan died? Did you?" The Lila from the past life smiled gently and answered, "Lila, I am so happy you found happiness in this life. Aslan is by your side now, right? I always prayed for another chance to start over, and it seems the pocket watch that Gray gave me helped me grant that wish. We don't have much time left, Lila." Lila was completely stunned. "Time?" The Lila from the past life smiled gently and reminded her, "The time for us to meet and the time that Gray has been holding on is also running out." Lila, still sitting on the bed and completely bewildered, asked again, "What do you mean?" "Lila, I am so happy you found happiness in this life. Aslan is by your side now, right? But I hope your future won't be like that. Then Gray and Aslan won't have to be torn apart by life and death." Lila exclaimed in astonishment, "You know how to cure Gray?" She recalled the past and explained, "In my past life, I met a doctor from Hesse before I died." After hearing that, she quickly realized Hesse is the neighboring country on the western border, right? Lila exclaimed in astonishment. "You know how to cure Gray?" Lila exclaimed in astonishment. "You know how to cure Gray?" Her past self replied cheerfully. "That's right. That's where Gray lived before she became the Duchess." The Lila from the past life lowered her head sadly and explained, "In the past life, I broke my promise to Gray. I lost Aslan because of Glock's treacherous schemes." She recalled the past and explained, "In my past life, I met a doctor from Hesse before I died, who has proven an effective treatment. If we can find that person, Gray can be cured." Lila looked up, dazed. This truth, along with its treatment, only became known not long after Gray passed away. Tears streamed sadly down her past self's face again. "The truth is, by the time I learned this, and so, the ducal family's fortune was transferred to Rosaline, Glock, and the paternal Thodel family." Lila couldn't help but cry out worriedly, "Helena, your body is." But she just gently reassured her, "It's all right. I've completed my mission. Now all that's left is for me to return to where I belong," and replied, "First thing in the morning, I'll tell Aslan and search for the doctors from Heath." Both Gray and Aslan had already passed away. "I was finally able to tell you this, so perhaps my efforts weren't for nothing." Lila cried out, "Helena, I will grant your wish and make sure your efforts weren't in vain." A few days later, the doctor was brought to Gray's bedside. He continuously prepared medicine for her, and then the doctor took Gray's pulse. "This is my final request. Watching her past self fade away before her very eyes, my life is over, so please leave the pain behind and live for the joys of the future." A while later, he came out. The director, who was waiting anxiously outside, saw him as the door closed and immediately went over to inquire, "Sir, what is Lady Gray's current condition?" He replied as he walked out, "Her health is weaker than I expected, but fortunately, how did you all know to contact me?" He smiled and explained, "Someone recommended you to us." The doctor exclaimed in surprise, "Me? Why is that?" He continued, "You grew up in Hesse, didn't you? That person said it would be very helpful." Hearing that, the doctor smiled brightly and remarked, "Oh, to know of my origins and still make the recommendation, they must be a person of exceptional skill and insight. Will I have an opportunity to meet this person someday? To be able to deduce aspects of Lady Gray's illness without research, I would genuinely love to hear their opinion." The director then explained, "Well, this may be a bit hard to believe, but the person who recommended you, doctor, was the Duchess herself. A few days ago, Her Grace had a dream." Meanwhile, inside the drawing room, Aslan was joyfully exclaiming, "My mother is finally recovering." Lila also cried out excitedly, "That's truly wonderful." He asked Lila inquisitively, "Can you tell me about the dream that you had?" "I summoned the doctor in a hurry, but I never imagined a miracle would actually happen." Before she could even, he expressed his thoughts. "Anyway, I only just recently completed my research on this illness." Aslan furrowed his brow in confusion. "Why wouldn't I believe you?" Hearing this, she still hesitated with her head down, so he smiled. "Let's lighten the mood. You seem a bit tense, my lady?" Lila smiled gently and explained, "I don't know where to begin." The first day we met, Aslan also started to feel confused. "The first day we met?" Then he recalled that day she had said, "You dropped this, sir." Aslan exclaimed in surprise, "This is very precious to me. I almost lost it. Please, take this. If you ever need help in the future, bring this and come to the Thodio estate." Lila nodded affirmatively. "Yes. From that day on, until the time I came to find you, there was so much to explain." Aslan paused when he heard that, "the day you came to find me." Back then, Lila had looked up at him trembling and asked, "Do you remember me, sir?" After recalling, Aslan answered her, "It was raining heavily that day. You were wearing only thin clothes and had fled all alone to my estate." Lila looked up, a little surprised, and asked, "So you do remember?" His gaze lowered slightly as he affirmed, "Of course I remember. Because I was always waiting for you to come find me." Hearing this, Lila cried out in confusion, "You were waiting for me?" At this point, he finally confirmed, "Yes, to be more precise. Ever since we first met, I have been waiting for you to appear." She exclaimed in astonishment, "What?" Just then, Aslan let out a tired sigh. He gently reached his hand out to her as Aslan smiled and suggested, "It seems we have a long story to tell, don't we? So, would you like to take a walk with me?" And so, the two of them talked together until nightfall. "It was raining heavily that day. You were wearing only thin clothes and had fled all alone to my estate." Lila looked up, a little surprised, and asked, "I've finished my story. It's hard to believe, isn't it?" "I can't even believe it myself, so I don't know how you must feel, Aslan." But he just gently turned to her and smiled. "Not at all, I believe you." Lila asked again, completely bewildered. The sound of their footsteps echoed, clip-clop, clip-clop. Lila spoke softly, "Aslan, there's still stories that are hard to believe." Aslan looked down at her, smiled gently, and asked, "Do you know, really?" She thought to herself, even though Mrs. Gray is recovering and Aslan's past is real, and affirmed, "First, I was very surprised, and then my heart ached. Knowing that you also went through that same nightmare as me." Lila exclaimed in surprise, "Aslan, you too?" "What I thought after hearing the story you just told?" She looked up in confusion, waiting for his words. Aslan gently placed his hand on hers. "Lila, before I married you, I had a dream. I met the woman I loved and married her, but in the dream, I treated her with such cruelty. I didn't feel right, acting so cruelly towards her, but I couldn't control myself in the dream no matter how hard I tried. At first, her heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Just then, Aslan pulled her into a sudden embrace, exclaiming, "But it's such a relief. Now I can tell you everything." I quickly began to search for the woman from my dream and started to make the things I saw in the dream a reality, the dresses that suited her and even the handkerchief she had embroidered. Finally, I appeared before her. Just as planned. When I met her in real life, I felt my heart. I thought this dream was just a simple nightmare. But as it repeated more and more, I could no longer see it as a coincidence. Tears began to well up in Lila's eyes as she called out to Aslan. He squeezed her hand tightly, placed his hand on his chest, and sincerely expressed, "I've wanted to see you again so much, Lila." The next morning, Aslan elegantly cut and speared a piece of meat. He pushed the plate towards Lila, inviting her to eat more. She gently held up a hand to refuse. "No thank you," was about to explode. And by now, you must have realized who the girl in that dream was, right? If the food at the monastery isn't to your taste, then. Just then, the director approached from behind and interrupted. "Hold on, please forgive the interruption. I know you're in the middle of a meal, but I have some urgent news to report right away. I still haven't finished what I have." Right after that, Aslan became more insistent. "You'll get weak if you don't eat." Lila, extremely worried, turned to ask, "Is this about Gray?" And upon learning that her son has arrived, she has expressed a desire to meet and speak with you. This news made Lila incredibly excited. She covered her mouth and exclaimed, "Really? That's wonderful. Truly wonderful." Aslan also let out a sigh of relief. It seems her recovery was faster than expected. "We should reward Dr. Zihak handsomely. As for my mother wanting to see me." Seeing his hesitation, Lila grew very worried. She immediately suggested that Aslan go and speak with Gray, saying she must have been longing to see you. Aslan lowered his head, voicing his hesitation. "I'm not so sure. I'm worried I might end up hurting her. It might be too late, and she might only feel resentment towards me now." But then, she gently placed a hand on his shoulder to comfort him. "Aslan, Gray loves you so much. Based on Helena's memories as well as my own experiences, I'm sure that she misses you terribly." Her words made Aslan pause and blush. He remembered the day Gray had gently held him. "My son, you're so adorable." At that moment, Aslan had been overjoyed, hugging her and calling out, "Mom!" And so, the three of them headed to Gray's location. He gently opened the door. The moment he stepped inside, the air seemed to grow cold. Aslan lowered his head grimly, then steeled his resolve and called out, "Mother!" Gray smiled, overjoyed, and called, "Aslan, come here, my son." Aslan, deeply moved, cried out, "Mother, Mom, I missed you so much." Aslan and Gray spoke for a long, long time. They told each other everything, even things they had never dared to speak of before. After a long while, Gray paused as she realized, "Oh my, time has flown by. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep you all waiting for so long." Lila smiled happily and replied, "Not at all, Lady Gray. The director left to tend to his work a long time ago. And besides, I love watching the two of you sitting and talking like this." Aslan blushed and cried out in embarrassment, "Lila!" At this, Gray smiled kindly and said, "I was just worried that I haven't done anything for you yet. But now, seeing you with such a wonderful partner, this mother has nothing more to worry about." "Mother, why would you suddenly say something like that?" Lila blushed in surprise and said emotionally, "Thank you, Lady Gray." Her heart was filled with happiness. The pocket watch didn't just bring a new opportunity for her, but for Aslan and Gray too. By now, night had completely fallen, and Gray sat across from Aslan, expressing her gratitude. "Thank you so much, Miss Lila, for taking care of me again." She quickly replied, "Duchess Gray, you don't have to be so formal." But Gray shook her head and expressed, "As the new Duchess of the family, I cannot address you so casually. Like that. But if you don't like it, I will stop. If my memory were intact, I would have been able to thank you more. It's a shame I no longer remember Miss Lila, reading books to me, or when I brought the pocket watch to find you." At that moment, Lila realized, "Oh, that's right, should I return the pocket watch to you?" Gray refused without hesitation. "That's not necessary. It has already found its new owner. Magical items sometimes have a way of finding new owners like that, reading books to me, or when I brought the pocket watch to find you." At that moment, Lila realized, treated both my son and me very well. Lila hesitated and tried to respond. "I was simply repaying what I had received." Gray quickly realized, "If it's about what you received, oh, that's right, should I return the pocket watch to you?" Gray refused without hesitation. "That's not necessary." Her a little surprised. "Duchess Gray, how did you know that?" Gray immediately explained. "Although it's quite hard to believe, that dream probably really happened. It seems the pocket watch took pity on us and gave us a new chance." Lila's eyes widened in confusion as she cried out, "It really is the power of that watch." She bowed her head sadly. "Actually, I don't know much about it either, because in my entire life, I've only ever been able to use it to tell time. However, my late mother once said that if you keep the pocket watch, it will prevent upcoming misfortunes." Lila exclaimed in utter astonishment. "Prevent misfortunes?" Gray continued with her story. "But she also said that although that mystical power can prevent misfortune, it can't bring happiness." She cried out in complete shock, those words. At this, Gray became more cheerful, smiling as she affirmed, "That's right, happiness can only be created and preserved by oneself. Since the pocket watch's power chose you, Miss Lila, you surely understand the meaning of this, right?" A while later, their conversation ended, and Lila walked away dejectedly, constantly bowing her head and thought, "Maybe I understand a little about the meaning of creating and preserving happiness. I've always longed to be with my family, and all this time I've had to meet them in secret. I don't want to leave Aslan, but Central is still too dangerous a place for my family. Suddenly, the director approached from behind and called out, "Duchess, there you are!" Lila exclaimed with some surprise. "Ah, were you looking for me?" He smiled gently and reminded her, "You don't need to be doing trivial chores like this." Holding the broom, she just smiled and explained, "Ah, actually, I was just getting bored sitting around. You don't have to worry." The director spoke up a bit shyly. "You're a guest, yet you've helped the monastery so much. We are very grateful." Just then, Lila asked a question. "Oh, were you looking for me for some reason?" Then the director got to the main point. "Yes, the Duke is looking for the Duchess." She cried out in surprise. "Aslan?" Lila couldn't help but wonder. "Isn't Aslan with Lady Grey right now?" So, she went to find him immediately. Lila looked down sadly and asked, "Do we have to leave the monastery already?" Though he didn't want to, Aslan quickly confirmed, "That's right. I have to manage affairs in the territory now, and Mother also wishes for us to return to a peaceful life soon." This made her wonder, did Lady Grey say we should return early? He nodded and replied, "Yes, I'm not joking with you." Lila asked hesitantly, "Grey said she was going to stay at the monastery, right?" Aslan also nodded sadly. She then asked with a regretful expression, "That look on your face, does it mean you already tried to persuade her?" He replied reluctantly, "Yes, but Mother is so determined that it seems we can't go together. She wants, it's for our sake, and for the Dodio family. She doesn't want to be a burden to us anymore." Lila nodded as if she understood. Though Aslan had explained it wasn't like that, Lady Grey remained very firm. Aslan was also very understanding. "I understand how my mother feels. When she goes back, society will gossip about her issues, which will be very difficult for her, especially since she is still sick." She lowered her head sadly and hesitated. "I respect Lady Grey's choice, but if she stays here, Lady Grey will still feel very lonely. Even if the nuns take good care of her, this is still a strange place to her. That's why in my past life, Lady Grey and I relied on each other." Lila recalled the very happy times she and her had in the past life, and Aslan sadly came to a realization. "You're right, it's embarrassing, but no matter how hard I think, I just can't seem to find a sure way to make my mother happy." His words left her a bit bewildered. Happiness? Lila recalled that Grey had once told her, "Happiness is something you can only create and preserve for yourself." Then she immediately looked up. She spoke up, "Aslan, I understand now. I've just thought of a way for Grey, you and me to all be happy, Aslan." Completely astonished, he stared at her dumbfounded. "What is it?" Lila shared enthusiastically. "Aslan, you also hope that Grey won't have to live a lonely life, don't you?" He affirmed without the slightest hesitation. "That's right." At that, her voice suddenly dropped, "But as you said, if Grey returns to Central, she will be forced to go back, to return to the world of the aristocracy, even if it's against her will. On the surface, perhaps no one would dare to disrespect the Duchess, but behind her back, there will surely be a lot of speculation and gossip about Grey, which will cause her a great deal of stress." Aslan wholeheartedly agreed with her opinion. He said, "Right. Even though Mother is gradually recovering, these matters are still too much for Mother. Perhaps bringing her back to Central is truly just me being incredibly selfish." Then, Lila made another suggestion. "In that case, why don't we take Mother to a quiet mansion near Central? Let's keep Grey's return a secret from the nobles in Central," Aslan exclaimed in utter surprise. "That is an excellent idea, my lady. But if she is to live alone, wouldn't it be more comfortable for her to stay at the convent she's familiar with?" Lila closed her eyes and shared her thoughts. "That's why I suggested it. I don't want Grey to be alone anymore." At this, he became confused. He cried out, "If she's not going to be alone, then don't tell me you're talking about that place." Seeing that he'd guessed her intention, Lila replied with great satisfaction, "That's right. I want to bring Grey to live with my family, the Ambers." Aslan wholeheartedly agreed with this. It was obviously much better than letting his mother live alone. So Lila affirmed, "Yes, and that way we can both visit our families together." His gaze fell as he hesitated. "Although I'm very grateful for your offer, if the condition of my mother worsens, it will surely cause your family a lot of trouble. I'm just worried that my desire to bring my mother back will end up being a burden on your family." However, she quickly cut in, "I don't think so. Since we know the treatment, her condition will definitely improve. Besides, my family really needs Grey." Aslan turned to her in confusion and asked, "They need my mother?" Lila immediately began to explain, "That's right, my family is still not used to life in Central and the culture of the nobility. If Grey could teach them about etiquette and customs, it would be very helpful." He looked down, flustered, and asked again, "You mean we would live together and help each other?" She affirmed without hesitation, "Exactly. They can live together and complement what the other lacks. If so, I would also feel more at ease than just getting news of my family by letter. Don't you agree, Aslan?" At this, Aslan smiled enthusiastically. "I'd also feel much more relieved if Mother didn't have to stay at the convent. What a truly brilliant idea, my lady. How did you ever think of that?" Lila smiled and replied, "It's all thanks to Lady Grey." "Ha! Grey told me that we can avoid misfortune, but happiness is something we must create and maintain for ourselves." Aslan's face flushed as he called out to Lila. At that moment, she lowered her head and confessed, "Aslan, we've lived for too long, and have hurt the people we love, including our own families and each other. Because we didn't want to be hurt and didn't want to hurt others, we pushed away the people we love, but let's not be like that anymore. Let's live together with the people we love." And so, night gradually fell, blanketing the castle. A few weeks later, Grey decided to leave the convent after being convinced by Aslan. Once Grey agreed, the preparations for her move went smoothly and quickly. The carriage wheels finally clattered to a halt, with just a short way left to go. Inside the carriage, Lila asked with concern. Lady Gray, are you feeling any regrets? The lady lowered her head and replied, not regrets, I'm just sad that I couldn't repay all the kindness I received before I left. At this, she smiled reassuringly. To them, your happiness is repayment enough. I'm sure that's what everyone wants, Gray cried out in surprise. Is that so? If everyone is that concerned, then I have all the more reason to live well. However, I worry that my condition might be a bother to your family, Lila's family. Hearing that, she stared blankly at her for a long time, then Ray continued to speak. I only have one worry. Because I've been lonely for so long, I yearn for affection from others. Therefore, I'm worried that my awkwardness and vulnerability might bother Lila's family because of how hard it is to reconnect with people. I'm worried that I might make the effort Lila has put in useless. She looked at her with great worry and said, Lady Gray, please don't say that. My family is very much looking forward to Gray coming over. In fact, you might even find us to be a bother later on. If my little rascal gets too mischievous, you have to give him a good scolding, okay? Gray looked at her in confusion and asked, a little rascal? Lila, you have a younger brother too? Lila's words made me even more excited. This will be the first time I've lived in a house with so many people since I was a child. She smiled gently and replied to her, it's nothing at all. I'm just glad you seem to like the idea. My family is still making preparations to welcome you, so until they're complete, let's stay together at the ducal estate in Central. Gray quickly agreed. Yes, I'll be in your care, Miss Lila. A few days later, at the Thodeo ducal estate, she carefully stepped down from the carriage. Aslan gallantly extended his hand to help Gray. This way, mother. However, she seemed a bit unused to it, replying awkwardly, Just then, Dantan also rushed out, calling out, my lord, my lady. I may be lacking in many ways, but I am Dantan, the duke's attendant. I am greatly honored to serve the former mistress of the Thodeo family. Aslan quickly interjected, that's enough, Dantan. Has the madam's family arrived yet? He quickly reported. They have received the telegraph and are on their way. They should arrive shortly. He praised him and gave an order. Good. In the meantime, please prepare a room for my mother. Dantan replied with a joyful smile. Yes. In that case, please have a meal first. At that moment, he walked past her. Ray, standing behind, hesitated for a moment. Her heart was pounding in her chest from anxiety. Just then, the doors swung open, and a long line of servants was lined up waiting for them. Gray could only stare at the backs of Aslan and Lila from behind. Everything felt chaotic in her mind. Darkness engulfed Gray's emotions as a loud shout echoed. Stop it! The sound of shattering plates and cups echoed relentlessly. She collapsed to the ground sorrowfully, sobbing. A hand from someone was raised high as Gray screamed. Even though she had made the effort to return to the ducal estate in Central, every step seemed to grow heavier. In her memories, this house was always linked with exhaustion and stress. No one in the mansion noticed Gray's strange behavior, except for one person. From behind, Lila approached and called out with a smile, Lady Gray. But Lila was different. She understood, thanks to the years she endured under Count Lorestan. She understood that Gray was still haunted by nightmares that could not be erased. That allowed her to relax somewhat. The room around her had been cleaned and decorated tidily. Gray exclaimed in astonishment, Are these flowers? Lila gently gestured toward her, explaining, Since you like flowers, I changed the atmosphere a little. I hope you like it? Gray was extremely moved, tears streaming down her face as she cried out, "Th. Oh, thank you so much." Right after that, she came forward and grasped her hand tightly. Compared to what you have done for me, this is nothing at all. The plan was quite rushed, and Aslan helped a lot too. Lady Gray, if you don't mind, I'll give you a tour of the house. Lila held Gray's hand tightly, just like a real family member. She turned to look at her gently and explained, Even though you're already familiar with this place, I have changed a few things to make it more convenient for you, so I'll explain them directly as we go. Gray was a bit surprised and turned to ask, This house has changed? Aslan stood beside them, witnessing the scene, with an incredibly happy smile. And then Lila suggested, Please, this way first. The sound of their footsteps echoed continuously around the house. Lila smiled and turned to introduce the room. This is where you will be staying, Lady Gray. We discussed it with everyone and chose the spot with the best lighting. The light in here is lovely, isn't it? I changed to sheer curtains because I didn't want to block out the light. Gray looked over at the space and remarked with admiration, It truly is. Just then, Lila took her hand again and pulled her along. Oh, there's one more thing I want to show you. Come this way. Light from outside quickly flooded in as she opened the door. The balcony behind it, filled with flowers, opened up to a new world. Lila introduced it with great excitement. Gray, what do you think? I plan to plant new flowers on this balcony every season. Gray's expression immediately darkened. This place held memories of days when I couldn't even die when I wanted to. She was incredibly distressed, her whole body trembling as she called out, My poor Aslan. But now, Lila was just smiling gently toward Gray, painting a picture of a warm family right in this very spot. She closed her eyes tightly, thinking emotionally, It's thanks to Lila that I'm only now realizing how beautiful this mansion has always been. Lila turned to her, overjoyed, and smiled. I'm so glad you like it. Night had fallen. In the room, at a dining table laden with delicious food, Gray sat at the table, hesitating slightly, unsure of what to say. Across from her was the entire family of Lila, laughing and joking excitedly. Idol's eyes widened as he exclaimed, Central really has so much delicious food. Lila's father also exclaimed enthusiastically, There's truly nothing that compares, huh? Aslan smiled gently and said, I tried my best to prepare enough to repay what we received from Enut, but I'm still worried something might be lacking. The boy beamed and cried out, How could you say that, Your Grace? No, brother-in-law, you're the best. Right after that, everyone started to eat. A while later, Gray finished her meal. Aslan glanced at Lila and gave a slight nod, so she stood up and said, We'll excuse ourselves first. He added, Please continue to chat and enjoy yourselves. The door slowly closed, leaving Gray alone with Lila's family. Everything grew quiet and awkward. Suddenly, Sophia called out, Lady Gray? She replied, flustered, Yes? She smiled and asked gently, May I call you Gray? Or should I address you as the Duchess like before? Gray replied politely, Please just call me by my name, ma'am. Sophia then began to introduce herself. I understand, Gray. As we were introduced before, my husband and I are Lila's parents. The boy next to us is Aiden, Lila's younger brother. The boy quickly chimed in, Hello, Lady Gray. Then she bowed her head and expressed sincerely, We are so grateful that you have decided to live with our Violet family, even though we are still lacking. I know I have my shortcomings, but I will do my best, which made Mrs. Gray a little embarrassed. We're all going to be living together, so please don't take it so seriously. Sophia also smiled wistfully. We lived such normal lives, and now we suddenly have to manage a mansion, a large one with so many servants like this, so we still have a lot to learn. We're so fortunate that Mrs. Gray was by our side in this difficult situation. Ray gently placed a hand on his chest, bowing, I am also extremely grateful to everyone. I hope we can all get along and help each other out. When the door to the room opened, Aslan and Lila could be seen standing anxiously in a corner. Aiden playfully raised a finger to report, The atmosphere is very good. Only then was she able to breathe a sigh of relief. What a relief. He looked at her comfortingly, I trust that everyone will do a great job. The next day, the relatives of Lila and Gray looked as if they had become a true family. They would support one another and begin a new life. A few days later, Aiden playfully raised a finger to report, The atmosphere is very good. Only then was she able to breathe a sigh of relief. Lila excitedly spoke while lifting her teacup, Aslan, I've already heard from Dan Turn. I've even given up on teaching my brother Pola, so we're really so lucky. Aslan also lowered his gaze and said, Aiden is also giving strength. To Mother, she asked with some concern. Is he being a bother? However, he quickly reassured her, Not at all. Doesn't Aiden have a personality? As bright as you and your parents? That's a comfort I can't provide for my mother. In the meantime, Mrs. Gray was patiently guiding Aiden. She also smiled happily. Because Mrs. Gray is managing the mansion, my parents are very grateful as well. At that moment, he reached his hand toward her, calling, Lila. Lila's face turned red as she replied, Yes? Aslan gently caressed her hair, proposing, Now, the only thing left to settle is our own work, she cried out, a little confused. Our work? He then leaned in closer, confessing, I want us to have a child. If possible, I hope the child will be just like you, my lady. His words made her blush in embarrassment, and she cried out, Aslan. Her reaction made Aslan laugh. I was just joking, my lady. She quickly yelled, playfully scolding him. To say something like that in broad daylight. How could you make a joke like that? Just then, the door swung open, and Dan Turn called out, My lady. She turned to Dan Turn, bewildered. He was panting continuously as he reported, You need to read this letter right away. Looking at the letter in Dan Turn's hand, Lila was puzzled. She took the letter, hesitating a bit. A letter from the main temple? The temple would have no reason to send me a letter. Then, with trembling hands, Lila slowly opened it. The words written inside left her utterly astonished. Therefore, according to the last will and testament of Count Laurestin, the inheritance shall be transferred to Helena Laurestin. Moreover, only Helena Laurestin, that is, Lila Violet, may inherit the legacy of Count Laurestin. Seeing her horrified expression, Dan Turn asked with concern, What's wrong, Lady Lila? Her eyes widened in bewilderment as she called out, Aslan, something is wrong. I need to go to the temple immediately, the main temple. Aslan gripped Lila's shoulders, asking worriedly, My lady, are you all right? She looked down sadly, and said, I'm sorry, I need a moment to organize my thoughts. I just found out too many things at once. But he just gently complied. I'll call for the carriage immediately. Lila's mind was still reeling. I'm still so confused I couldn't believe it. In that moment I cried out in shock that it was impossible. I also understood that Countess Laurestin had left her fortune to Helena. But wasn't that inheritance meant for the real Helena Laurestin? Back then, I trembled with anger. If Helena died before coming of age, the entire fortune would be donated to the church. Damn it, then just lock her in the attic. Just keep her alive until she comes of age. Lila recalled that painfully. I knew that was the reason I was imprisoned at the Count's estate, but the lawyer in front of me explained that although the Countess had written the will like that, she amended it before she passed away. That left me a bit bewildered. What does that mean? He replied sadly. Perhaps the Countess did not receive this information. It might have been intentional. I will relay what the situation was like then. Before she passed away, the late Countess Laurestin was. At that time, she was in great pain, coughing violently but still tried to speak. Is it possible? The lawyer asked with great concern. Are you still conscious, Countess? She breathed heavily and replied, Even if it's late, it's all right. All right. Immediately get Helena. He was confused but still replied, Yes, I'm still listening. Please go on. She wearily requested. Amend the will. Even though it's late, please let me atone to the child who took Helena's place, especially that last surviving child. Let me atone and give her the compensation she deserves. At the time the Countess passed away, a sentence was added to the will. Helena Lariston, that is, Lila Violet, will be the heir to the fortune of Countess Lariston. He recounted with a sad bow. The Countess realized her sins before she passed away, and deeply regretted causing such indelible wounds to the young girls. Lila finally realized, so that's why she left the fortune to me, the one who played the role of Helena. But I wish to refuse that money. The Lareston County estate was a place like hell for me. Even though I understand the tragedy the Countess went through, the fact that I was a victim doesn't change. The lawyer also bowed his head helplessly. She too will have to face God's judgment for her sins. However, Your Grace, legally, the inheritance is a separate matter. The fact that you are inheriting the fortune doesn't mean you have forgiven her. At that moment, Lila recalled the time her mother embraced her. I love you, Helena, our daughter. Please don't forgive me. She sighed sadly and lowered her head. The Countess truly was a stubborn person until the very end. The lawyer across from her spoke up. The reason we sent a letter to Your Grace is also because we no longer have the legal right to hold the assets. Suddenly, Lila asked, do I still have to inherit the Countess's estate until I can donate it somewhere else? Is that correct? The lawyer quickly replied, I am very sorry, but that is correct. Lila immediately responded, I see. All right. Please give me some time. I will make my decision and prepare accordingly. After getting into the carriage to leave, Lila was still filled with a lingering sorrow. Aslan, sitting beside her, quickly noticed she was acting unusual and asked, My lady? Lila leaned weakly against his shoulder and said, I'm sorry, Aslan. I thought I had become so much stronger. He frowned sadly and reassured her, You don't need to apologize to me for anything, as long as my lady is okay. I'll be happy. Her eyes closed tightly as she asked Aslan, Can I hug you for a moment? Aslan didn't hesitate to agree. Of course, my lady. Are you all right? Lila hugged him tightly and recounted, I kept remembering the past and I still hate Countess Lariston because she stole my entire life from me, but I also find her a little pitiful. Lila remembered Helena's shocked face, when she saw me. Then she started to explain, she was always unhappy and I was the closest person to her to be able to feel that. I still feel so conflicted. I can't imagine what it's like to constantly meet and part with your deceased daughter because of Count Lareston's scheme. Aslan gently held her, soothing her emotions. Lila, you are the victim, so you don't need to sympathize with her. By now, Lila felt much better and smiled, thank you. But now, I can't just resent Countess Lariston anymore, because I'm not a child now, and I'm no longer Helena's replacement. Aslan hesitated and asked, if that's the case then? Before he could finish, Lila cut him off, affirming, yes, I've decided. I will inherit the Countess's assets, and that money will be used to protect terminally ill patients and victims of domestic violence. After consulting with the priests, I was advised that I should establish my own charitable foundation to do this. Aslan didn't object at all. If that's what my lady wishes, then the Thoddle ducal family can provide a lot of support. Hearing his words, she was overjoyed and smiled, of course. From now on, I'll be bothering you a lot. His gaze lowered, staring at her intently. My lady has always had such a warm heart and such resilience. You always manage to surprise me. Lila quickly hugged him. It's all thanks to you for always guiding me. Thank you, Aslan. A few months later, at the Thoreau ducal estate, everyone clinked their glasses together, cheering to our bright future and the Aiden Charity Foundation. Overjoyed, he expressed, Sir Gray, this champagne is delicious. Gray also replied enthusiastically, Seeing you this happy makes me happy too. He continued to praise him profusely. I've always worked hard to learn from Sir Gray's expertise. He is truly admirable. So, could you teach me how to choose good wine now? At that moment, Sophia shouted loudly, You're always learning such weird things. Gray tried to resolve the situation. All right, well, hosting a wonderful party is part of being a noble anyway. You should lower your voice too. Just then, Lila's father looked around and asked Sir Gray, By the way, where did your sister go? I saw her during the greetings earlier, but now she's disappeared. I have to go and find her. Hearing that, Sophia came over and whispered, Oh, what an unsubtle father. The Duke hasn't been seen for a while either, you know. Only then did he realize, exclaiming, Ah, she's definitely having a wonderful time. Dear Duchess, thanks to your help, I have been able to settle down peacefully in this village. The people in the village are all very friendly. I thank you every day and am enjoying these peaceful days. Although this can hardly be considered repayment, please accept these flowers. I picked the most beautiful ones from the flowers that I've grown, hoping they bring a little joy to you, my lady, and wishing you eternal happiness. I wish to express my gratitude, as well as my apologies. Aslan approached her, asking about the letter's contents. Lila happily replied, It seems she's doing very well, which is a relief. Some people might think I'm foolish, but I feel more proud than I ever imagined. He smiled gently at her and remarked, My lady, you are truly the kindest person I have ever met. This compliment made Lila a bit embarrassed, and she blushed as she exclaimed, It's not that big of a deal? Oh, how embarrassing. Her heart was pounding wildly, and Aslan's face had also turned as red as a tomato. Then, right after that, he moved in and gave her a passionate kiss. As soon as they pulled apart, he spoke softly. Lila, may I be more intimate with you? Lila replied, flustered. Yes, you can, Aslan. And so, he wrapped his arms around her waist. The moment Aslan swept her into his arms, Lila called out in a slight panic. Aslan! Instead of letting go, he lifted her even higher. Aslan gently hugged Lila from behind and confessed, I have waited for so long for the day you would open your heart to me. The moment he placed a kiss on her shoulder, Lila blushed and let out a small sound. Ah, me too, Aslan. Aslan gently set her down and asked tentatively, can I take what you just said to mean what I think it means? A tear of happiness welled up in Lila's eye as she responded, yes, I love you, Aslan. He gently kissed her eyelid and confessed, I love you too, Lily. The two happily embraced. Lily smiled and thought to herself, Aslan, I understand now that happiness is something we must create for ourselves, and how to protect it. The pocket watch helped you and I meet again, but we both made different choices this time compared to our past lives. Aslan looked up at her and called out softly, my lady. Lila smiled back at him and said, thank you, Aslan, for loving me in this life as well. They continued to gaze at each other lovingly. Then Aslan suddenly laughed and declared, of course, and if you'll allow me, I will do so. In this life, and in all the lives to come. His words moved Lila deeply. Really? So, until when do you plan on loving me, Aslan? He chuckled softly and then firmly. Promised. Probably. Forever. Thank you all for watching today's video, as we have now reached the end of this captivating series. See you all in the next video, which will feature an even more dramatic and exciting story. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support us, and to make sure you don't miss any new videos. We sincerely thanks for watching, and we hope you have a wonderful day.